If you're not already wealthy, I have bad news. If you make under $50,000, you may soon have to pay more in taxes. It's $75 more if you make between $17,000 and $51,000, and it's $135 more if you make under $17,000. It's economics. It trickles down like pee from a balcony. It's sold as relief, but you're the only one getting hosed. This bill is crap. We should use national debt as a tool, not buy a bunch of tools. This bill, it also highlights why we need cooperatives now more than ever. What's a cooperative? Think of it as a community of individuals who work together because they share common everyday economic, social, or cultural needs. The key is how they meet that need. It's through a business and enterprise that they own together and control democratically. Now, don't let that word trip you up. At the heart of it is joint ownership and democratic control. Unlike traditional businesses where ownership is often held by distant shareholders seeking profit, here ownership is shared by the members, the people who use the co-op. Control is in the hands of these members. Everyone has an equal say, and it fosters a sense of empowerment and fairness. My mission is to help you understand why starting a cooperative in your community could be so powerful right now. Specifically, it's so you can afford access to the things that you need. Co-ops work differently from a typical business down the street. It also happens to be better for the community, and that's because it's owned by its members, it's controlled by its members, and its primary goal is to benefit those members. So think about membership. Co-ops are membership organizations. Often, they exist sometimes only to serve their members. Like a credit union, you have to join first. You enter the group, you become a member, and then you gain access to loans and savings accounts and whatever services they offer. You're part of a club, so to speak. Cooperatives usually operate on a principle where one member equals one vote. It doesn't matter if you've put in $100 or $10,000. Even with big decisions, your vote counts exactly the same as every other member's vote. That's totally different from a standard company where the more shares you own, the more votes you get. It actually shifts the power dynamic away from wealth and towards the actual people involved. It fosters community ownership. The main aim isn't to maximize profit for outside investors. It's about providing goods or services to members at the best possible value. Sometimes even at cost. They can sometimes operate in ways like nonprofit. They might not always have legal nonprofit status, but their orientation is a member benefit, not a shareholder profit. It usually comes through patronage, refunds, or dividends on share capital that they hold, but the key is patronage. If the cooperative has a good year and makes more money than it costs to run, that surplus doesn't get pocketed by owners. It often gets distributed back to the members based on how much they use the co-op. You return a bigger slice of that surplus if you buy many groceries from the co-op grocery store. It's like a reward for your participation. Your benefit is tied to how much you engage with the co-op, which helps align everyone's interests. The cooperative movement has deep roots and a fascinating global history. If you go back to the 19th century in Germany, pioneers like, and I'll probably say this wrong, Schultz Diltzsche and Friedrich Wilhelm Reifenson are known for their impact. Setting up the first modern purchasing associations and credit cooperatives, they helped people access loans and banking when traditional banks weren't interested. People pooled their resources because the established system wasn't serving them. It was a powerful idea, and it really spread far. Around the same time, there was a lot of thinking about worker cooperatives in France. People like Louis Blanc promoted the idea that workers should own and control their own businesses. They should share in the profit and decision-making. Some early attempts had their struggles naturally, but those core ideas of worker ownership and democratic workplaces still inspire co-ops today. Where have co-ops really made a significant mark recently? Agriculture is a huge one, absolutely massive globally. Think about the US and France and Scandinavia, Canada, Japan, India, Brazil, Thailand, and China. The list goes on. Agricultural co-ops have been critical to empowering farmers. Imagine being a small farmer trying to buy supplies or selling your crops alone. You don't have much leverage, but band together in a co-op and now you have strength. Suddenly you can buy seeds, fertilizer, and equipment in bulk, and you can get better prices. You can process your grain collectively, market your produce together, access bigger markets, and get better prices. This gives farmers real market power, which make a huge difference. Building on those early German models, you see a similar success story with rural credit organizations. Their strength often comes from that local trust. Neighbors lending to neighbors, essentially. They're owned by local members, governed by them, and focused on regional development. They tend to serve smaller clients. Big corporate banks may overlook folks and generally don't participate in risky speculation. They reinvest locally. It's incredibly stable and community focused, but it's not just for farming and finance. Service co-ops are a growing sector in modern economies. They provide various services such as healthcare, social care, childcare, education, catering, transportation. The co-op structure lets them tailor services to members' needs and build strong relationships. Can you see how parents forming a co-op could give them direct input into their kids' care? More involvement, potentially lower costs, and shared values to guide the center. It's a perfect example of a community identifying and solving a need together. And community is a first step for a cooperative. Utility cooperatives, especially in the US, such as rural electric co-ops, telephone co-ops, and water co-ops. They were essential in bringing basic services to vast parts of this country. The big investor-owned companies didn't see enough profit in serving these areas. The co-ops, they stepped in because its mandate was to service the members. It wasn't maximizing profit for shareholders and was not a minor player. We're talking in trillions in assets and hundreds of billions in revenue. Let's not forget housing cooperatives where residents collectively own and manage their buildings. Again, this fosters community and shared responsibility. Co-ops aren't just some niche thing. They're a significant economic force across loads of sectors. This drives home the potential for communities to take control of the things you need. The overall picture in the US is impressive. You're looking at well over $650 billion in annual revenue generated by cooperatives. $650 billion. That supports more than 2 million jobs and pays $75 billion in wages and benefits. It's a significant chunk of the economy. Those are serious numbers. How does a new cooperative, which you might be considering starting, ripple through the local economy? Any new business creates activity, right? A co-op does too. It generates its own revenue. It hires people directly, and that's the direct impact. Then there are the indirect impacts. The co-op buys supplies and uses services from other local businesses. The new food co-op may buy produce from local farms or use a local accountant, spreading the money around. Then you have the direct impacts. That's the spending by the co-ops, the employees using their wages, and the members spend any patronage refunds that they get back. It creates this positive ripple effect that stays local. So it's not just the service itself, it's building up the whole local economic ecosystem. We touched on agriculture in some markets. If you only have one or two big players, a new competitor can make the whole market more competitive. It gives producers another option, potentially leading to fairer prices for everyone. Economists call this pro-competitive effect. For farmers, they share risk, gaining control socially and economically. For consumers, there's often a built-in trust factor. If you know the food co-op is owned by local farmers, you may trust the quality or the sourcing more. It's what some call a credence attribute. The ownership structure itself signals something positive to the consumer because the owners are also producers and probably direct users as well. You have social and public service co-ops. These directly tackle community concerns, things like affordable healthcare clinics, community land, housing trusts, transport for seniors, and educational programs. Simply go to that Project 2025 tracker and see all the things listed that are going to be eliminated. There's opportunity there. There's often a focus on making these things accessible and affordable. It's really a tremendous social good. The values underpinning the community benefit model and democracy translate into tangible, positive outcomes. And that's because they often do. The focus isn't just about extracting profit, it's meeting needs. And that tends to lead to different, often more socially beneficial results. What are the typical challenges or hurdles someone might face starting or running a co-op? It's definitely not without challenges. Historically and still today, one of the biggest ones is raising capital, money to get started or to expand. Unlike a typical investor-owned business that could issue shares to raise money on the stock market, co-ops usually rely more on contributions from their members, either bank loans or reinvesting their surplus earnings. Getting that big chunk of cash, it could be tougher, and access to capital is essential. Unfortunately, another issue has sometimes been resistance from competitors, such as established businesses that just don't like the co-op model. Even in some historical cases, pushed back by governments who saw membership as a bit too different. It's the potential for opposition from the status quo. This highlights that co-ops can be seen as genuinely disruptive. It's a real alternative. The internal workings of the democratic one member, one vote structure, it can cause issues. Some argue that building consensus among a large group of members can slow down decision-making compared to a top-down company. Getting everyone on board might just take time. So balancing essential democratic control with the need to be nimble and effective in the marketplace could be a real challenge if you're not careful. But co-ops are still around, so they must be finding ways to manage it. The cooperative movement is incredibly adaptive. New generation cooperatives, they've emerged. They are trying different structures, different classes of memberships, or ways to attract non-member investment. That's while they're always trying to keep the ultimate control with the members. They are evolving while staying true to their core principles. Like any business, they have to adapt to the market. Look at consumer co-ops in Europe. Some have thrived, others have struggled. Often the difference was their ability to modernize, consolidate where needed, and respond to what shoppers wanted. There is a flip side to some of those perceived challenges, though. It's resilience. Cooperatives are often less focused on maximizing short-term profit and more cautious about risk. And because of that, they actually showed remarkable stability during the 2008 financial crisis. Compared to investors-owned businesses, fewer co-ops went under. Their focus on long-term member benefits provides a buffer against excessive risk-taking, and that inherent stability could be a significant long-term advantage. Their structure and values can lead to a more sustainable model over time. If you're thinking about that gap in your community, why should you seriously consider starting a cooperative? What are the absolute key takeaways for accessing needed, affordable goods and services? It boils down to those core strengths that we discussed. First, member ownership. The people who use the co-op own it, so the benefits flow directly back to them, not to distant shareholders. Second, democratic control. Members have an authentic voice, ensuring that the co-op stays focused on their needs and they keep it accountable. One member is one vote. Third, the primary goal is providing goods or services at cost or at the best possible value, not maximizing profit. This, it inherently promotes affordability. Any surplus generated should generally be reinvested into the co-op or returned to members as patronage refunds. This strengthens the local economy and member benefits. And finally, it's about a long-term focus on the well-being of members and the community. Through all these examples, we've seen that it isn't just a theory. Co-ops have a proven centuries-long track record across almost every sector imaginable. They offer a compelling practical alternative, especially when meeting those fundamental community needs. It's a tangible way for people to take collective action, build local resilience, and to get access to the things that really matter on terms that work for them. Here's the final thought I want to leave you with today. Think about your community. What specific need is going unmet right now? What essential service or product is getting way too expensive or is just hard to find? How would this bill impact your area? Now imagine harnessing the collective power of the people around you through a cooperative model. Could that be the solution? Take a serious look at the unique challenges and opportunities right where you live. Thanks for joining me, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now watch this. Okay, bye. Ooh, child, that was long. I said a lot of words. Why are you still here? Go.